Aristotle took what he learned from Plato, who took what he had learned from Socrates, to try to guide the people of Athens to become the best versions of themselves. If each of you can grow in virtue, then the whole city will be great. Aristotle was born in the Macedonian town of Styra in the year 384 BC. Being the son of a wealthy physician gave him early access to the world of the elite. When he turned 18, he traveled all the way to Athens. Ow, darn rocks! He went there to study at Plato's Academy, the most prestigious center of learning in the ancient world. He stayed there for decades, absorbing Plato's teachings. When Plato died, Aristotle wandered through Hellas, seeking other intellectual strongholds across the Greek world. He spent time in Asia Minor, where he forged a close friendship with Hermias, a former slave who had risen to power. Aristotle eventually married Hermias' sister, cementing the bond between them. However, tragedy struck when Hermias was captured and executed by the Persian king Artaxerxes, an event that would push Aristotle once again into exile. Well, while he and Mrs. Aristotle were wandering around, King Philip of Macedonia invited the native-born Aristotle to tutor his son, Prince Alexander. For 3 years, the now well-known peaceful philosopher tutored the young prince in ethics, politics, and philosophy. I doubt old Aristotle knew he was preparing a future young conqueror who would occupy a vast empire that stretched from Macedonia to Egypt to parts of India. While under Aristotle's tutelage, Prince Alexander once told his father that he owes his knowledge of a good life to Aristotle. Apparently, what Aristotle taught regarding a good life may have been misconstrued by the young prince, because a few years later, Alexander marched across Asia, leaving cities in ruin and other various empires in collapse. While Alexander was subduing all of Greece, Asia Minor, Assyria, Persia, and parts of India, peace-loving Aristotle returned to Athens and established his own school called the Lyceum, which means a hall for public lectures and discussion. In working with Alexander, Aristotle wanted to create an enlightened king for a united Greece. In fact, Aristotle is quoted as saying, "I foresee an enlightened king who can rule the world guided by justice." However, when Alexander started seizing one empire after another almost immediately after his training under the great philosopher, the young king quickly changed from being a monarch guided by reason and moderation to one craving more and more places to subdue. Well, in 323 BC, just 20 years after Aristotle started tutoring Prince Alexander, the dominating leader died. Immediately after learning of Alexander's demise, many Athenians who had become downright anti-Macedonian charged Aristotle with heresy against the gods. This is the same charge that was filed against Socrates. So, Aristotle, deciding to flee being executed, fled to Avia, where he died a few months later. Well, now that our hero is dead, let's go back to when he was alive. Throughout his life, Aristotle's thoughts were marked by a persistent concern for balance. In his Nicomachean Ethics, he advanced what he called the golden mean, which he encouraged all people to strive for. This is where the philosopher described the principle of moderation in all things. Too much or too little of any quality, he argued, leads to moral failure. Let's think about this. If a person gives all of his time to one thing, will he lose something else that is important? This idea extended to his political philosophy, where he advocated for mixed government, a balance between monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy. This political mean aimed to avoid the extremes of tyranny, oligarchy, or mob rule, seeking a stable middle ground to promote harmony and justice. This is fascinating because this is very close to what America's three branches of government were established to promote centuries later. Aristotle's life and work unfolded during the backdrop of a world in flux. He saw the fall of Greek city-states, the rise of Macedonian dominance, the spread of Greek culture across the known world through Alexander's conquest. Aristotle's writings outlasted the turmoil of his time, influencing generations of thinkers long after his death. Even as the physical world around Alexander the Great crumbled, Aristotle's ideas continued to shape the future, laying the intellectual foundations for both medieval and modern thought. For example, Nicholas Copernicus, René Descartes, and Sir Isaac Newton took Aristotle's natural philosophy of inductive-deductive observation and their approach to math and science, which led to today's scientific method. Thomas Hobbes and John Locke took many of Aristotle's concepts on personal ethics and politics to write works that directly led to the American founding fathers devising many of the rights we Americans enjoy today. Right now, many business colleges and major universities teach business virtue theory, which says that businesses ought to focus not on what the rules are that they should follow, but on what kinds of people managers and employees should become. In the end, Aristotle's vision of balance, whether in ethics, politics, or human action, became his lasting legacy, offering a framework for understanding not only the world of ancient Greece, but much of the Western culture we practice and live in today.